to the spend personality demo. I'm just going to explain what a spend personality is, how it can be used. In future sessions, we will go into the data science of the spend personality. So this one is going to focus on how you can use it and what benefits it can bring. But before I get to that, let me just tell you a little bit more about ecosystem. You can see at the bottom there, it's a platform, a low-code environment that combines behavioral social science with real-time artificial intelligence. So it's a platform that you can use to engage with your customers better and en masse via a digital platform. And usually customers use a prediction case to engage with their customer. So predict if this customer is going to purchase a product or if they're going to churn or something to that effect. So as you can see there, we've got at least 200 prediction cases in production across a number of clients at scale. At least 190 million customers are impacted, and it has to be able to do that for you to get those benefits out of those predictions, because in a digital means you are taking a human like myself, taking them out and you're replacing it with an intelligent digital channel, and you can then scale that to get that impact. And obviously that is generating quite a lot of business benefit for our clients. Okay, so spend personality. What is spend personality? Well, as it says there, it's a deeper understanding of how people spend money. And if you can understand how they spend money, you can give them, you can present them, you can offer them products which are going to resonate with them more widely. Think of people that might live in the same area, same age. Let's assume they earn the same amount of money, but one person's got a large family and one person doesn't have a family. They live by themselves. Do you think that those people are going to spend money in the same way? Even though they might earn the same amount, they more than likely aren't going to spend the money in the same way. And spend is really an indicator of the intention that you have done, that you have performed regarding products and services that you would like. So it's an actual evidence of that intention. When you post something on maybe social media, that's what you want people to see a lot of the times. Whereas if you actually purchase a bar of chocolate, or you go to a restaurant and you spend a certain amount of money, that is an intention that you've gone and done something. You've taken your hard-earned money and you've done that. And so that context and that understanding is very important in the journey that you're going to take as a person through your financial. So I'm going to get on to explaining a few more reasons why spend personality. But for the moment, let's assume that we are understanding that it's about how you spend money with an entity. So it's not your personality with your wife, for instance. It could have some correlations, but for instance, if you've got two banks, one you use where your salary comes in, and one where you've got your savings. Maybe they're two separate banks, and the money comes in, you send a certain amount to your savings, and maybe all of your insurance products come off that savings bank, and all of your sort of spend money, the money that you use to live through that month, comes off bank number one. Now, if you look at bank number two, there is no food going off that bank. Does that mean that you don't eat? So you can obviously see that it's a spend personality for that specific entity. And when you engage with that entity, you are taking on that personality. I just want to add that we are adding in generative AI. And why that is important is that you can use that AI to become more human-like. And this understanding as a spend personality, that is getting a digital interaction to become more human-like. And if you can add that to the generative AI qualities, you can start having conversations that can have some sarcasm, if that's what helps you engage with your customers. Some people might respond to sarcasm, some might respond to certain nuances in the language, and that might get them to make a connection to your product and your service more than your competitor. Another way to think about this is through your life with, let's say a financial services company. You, as you can see along the bottom there, the age group, if you are younger, generally younger people are quite a lot more enthusiastic. They may be first job, and they're spending a lot of money, and they're not really too concerned about later in life investments and savings. So two things: understanding their spend personality, you can confirm, are they young, and are they spending on experiential things? And they can confirm, yes, they are doing that, and therefore the products and services you might recommend to them could be more in that vein there's a new pop band coming around. Would you like to have a discounted tickets to go visit them, get in the queue first? More than likely not going to offer that pop band, that latest pop band. You're not going to offer it to somebody that's maybe contemplating retirement. Maybe there's never say never. And what you could also do is test that. So you'd send them a message and say, this is the greatest band that's ever lived. Are you going to go and watch them, miss out on an opportunity of a lifetime? You might test that with somebody that's a bit older. Maybe they do respond to it. And you can test and understand the language that you could use in between asking the people how they're spending their money. So as you move through life, you can test the spend personality. If the spend personality changes, maybe from enthusiastic, which we have a broad, let's agree that a broad way, younger people might be more enthusiastic and older people might be more intentional. As their scores change through their life cycle, with a bank, you can see them changing, and they can be confirming that they're getting older. And as they're changing, you could offer them products as they change and before they change. So as somebody's spending less and less on going out, and maybe they're saving more, maybe they're saving to buy a house, because you will know that they're in that process, and you can offer them a home loan or offer them more products that are suited to that, rather than them waiting to find an advert on the TV for a competitor that they find interesting. So you can use it in both of those ways. Just to reconfirm that spending is evidence of human behavior. As I said in the beginning, it's not what we're putting out there on social media. It's actually what we've actually done, and therefore, as it's a very defined and well accepted use of data to understand humans. So now I'm going to move on to explaining a few more of the use cases that you can use for spend personality. I might have already mentioned them, but I'm just going to go through them again here. So first of all, as a bank or as a financial institution or any institution that has customers, and you want to engage with them, you want to know them. You want to know your customer. At the moment, you're competing with a couple of maybe 10 different banks in your area. You're competing for that customer. If you know something more about your customer, you've got a leg up against your competitors. If you just know one more data point that would get them to engage with you better, more efficiently, that's going to make a massive difference how you engage with them and how you work with them long term. So that's knowing your customer. Then if you understand their behavior through their spending, that's even better. Even another few data points to add on to what you understand about your customer. And then you can use those behaviors to activate those customers that are changing from enthusiastic to intentional. Okay, let me activate them and let me try and move them back to experiential by offering them more exciting things to purchase. Or if they are moving across and you can see that they are saving money, then you can offer them products that are more intentional products, more savings products, more insurance products. How do you do this? First of all, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to categorize those customers based on the transactions that they have. So as I kept saying earlier, you've got maybe enthusiastic spend personalities are spending a lot of money on restaurants and going out. So you would categorize it. So every restaurant transaction, every travel transaction goes into a bucket, and you could categorize those accordingly. And we use the demographics and the transactions to know your customer. Then once you understand those behaviors, you assign a spend personality that can drive that interaction, and you can intelligently ensure that you can offer them the best products at the right time to activate those customers. And you can continuously engage with those customers with messages throughout their customer lifetime, so that you can generate both value for yourself as the client and for the customer, because you don't want to always be pushing them for loans, more credit. And you want to make sure that if they can see that they've been a great payer through their whole time with you, maybe there's a different product that will offer them a relief that they will stick with you through the times. Okay, any questions or comments so far while I take a quick sip? Okay, now I want to just bring in a concept of recommendations and experiments. So we've got spend personality to the one side, and now as a recommendation, think of a company that has a few thousand products, and you want to recommend the best product to that customer at that time, at a specific time. Now you could use a model that takes all of your transactions, and it can pick out that you've been buying a certain product every month you buy a certain product on a certain day. Now the model, the recommender model, will be trained on that, and when you score against that person, it will come out and say, offer this product to this person at this time. But now you don't know that that person that you're offering the product to, how are you going to get them? If you just say, here's a product, bang. I mean, they're going to, if you see the same product over and over again, eventually you ignore it. But if the language catches your eye, if you're an enthusiastic and it says, wow, Rob, you're fantastic, this product is going to make you feel wonderful. Hey, it sparks your interest. You might still ignore it, but the next time you see it, maybe it's changed and maybe the wording is slightly different. You go, let me look at that. Right now, I'm actually interested in that product. But if you just keep selling the same product at the same time, people are going to get bored with it because people respond to novelty and entertainment. And not that we're saying that everything has to be wildly enthusiastic, because what if somebody is intentional and all they want to know is the facts? Send them the same product, you're offering them the same product because the recommender has come up with that same product, but the language you use is more in tune with their spend personality. So you've used a recommender and a spend personality to give them the same product, but you're offering it to them in a way that gets them to engage with you more. And that's what this slide deck is saying, is that once the person's logged on, you've got a data point about them. If they log on and it's Rob, and you do score against Rob, and he's an existing customer and he is an extrovert, then give him the recommended product with a message. We could also know that intentional people generally don't like logging in. They would rather be in the background. They would surf around a bit, and they might click on the product without logging in. And then you can know that people that generally don't log in are generally intentional. So then your language would be crafted in a way that responds to intentional personalities. So as long as is everybody getting the fact that you can use these spend personalities to understand what that person is going to respond to, and how you can use spend personality to either know more about them or to offer them the products at the right time. Okay, so now for some of the less slideware and more engaging topics, I'm going to move on to the ecosystem spend and money personality custom GPT, and I'm going to ask it a couple of questions. And so what ecosystem has done, it has built a spend personality. It's taken transactions through transactions that are in the public domain, run it through our spend and money personality algorithms and train the models. And we've used the custom GPT to use the natural language to engage with those spend personalities. And I'm going to show you how that works now. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the one that I did earlier. It explains spend personality to me, and it gives you what the spend personality is about. And yeah, I don't need to read it to you. You could pick it out. But essentially, I've been explaining to you throughout the presentation so far. Once I move down here, so let's start a new chat and start again. As you can see, explain spend personality to me. So now what it's doing, it's now using the custom GPT. It's connecting to the ecosystem server, and it's giving the data that we're asking it to based on the knowledge base, the ecosystem knowledge base. Now you want to know for a customer, what is their spend personality? So I've already got a couple of customers that I want to ask it about. So what is the spend? So now, as you can see, it's going to our endpoint at bank-score.ecosystem.ai. I'm saying confirm. So it's now going to use the actual knowledge base of that endpoint, and it's going to say 590 is industrious, and it's going to give you the different traits. Now, think of this as you could have this in your internal system, and if you wanted to, for your marketing department, you want to find all the intentional people and you want to run a campaign. you could score it against this, or you could put this into the front end, and as customers come in, they could use this as the gateway to engaging with customers. They might, oh, what is my spend personality? And they ask it, put your customer number in. Oh, okay, and what does spend personality do? And so it could be a novel way, or it can be used internally for the marketing team and the sales team to focus their sales actions. So I'm going to just try another customer number here just to give us some variation. So it's a slightly different customer. It is a different customer. It's not slightly different. It is different, but they're going to have a different spend personality. So you can see they've got a slightly higher score. They are still industrious, but they have a higher score. Now, does that mean that they are different? So I'm going to ask it. Because you might say, I need a bit more. There's so many customers that are industrious. Let's try and dig down a little bit more. Maybe we can segment them a bit more that are very industrious, and the ones that are more industrious, and maybe they're more industrious a certain part of a certain time, a certain section of the year they're more industrious. We are going to get into a few more questions. So as you can see, the custom GPT is using natural language to explain and give whoever is using it some more insights into maybe those customers, which could then spur on your messaging strategy. And maybe you then segment, okay, I want intentional customers that I've got a score between 0.47 and 3.9, that they get a certain message, and customers that are intentional that are between this and this get a slightly different message. And you can just keep experimenting and keep sending messages out to get those customers to engage, because it's all about engagement. The philosophy we've all got to agree on, which we hold dear, is that if you engage with your customer in a better way, in a more efficient way, they are going to A, spend more with you, and B, remain a loyal customer, because your product is going to be front of mind all the time, and they're going to pull out that card or that service whenever they are in a mood to spend. So now, how to change your spend personality? Let's say, so now we want to, maybe they're enthusiastic, but they're always in debt. Maybe we want to change their spend personality. So let's ask it how to change spend person. So then this could be the input into the campaigns that the marketing team would take on. So we want to then move maybe the enthusiastics to intentionals because they're always in debt. And so we want to create some sort of lifetime value. So maybe we send them messages about creating budgets, and we use the language that will benefit them. Maybe the intentionals would be great if you understand exactly where all your spending is going, and let's help you make a budget. And you can then, as that bank, you can dig into that customer and that campaign. I want to then say, okay, let's craft a message. Let's craft a message for customer 590 to create a budget. The reason why I'm doing this is that now you can see it can help you create a message, and you can see the language here. So 590 is industrious. So the language is quite pointed and quite very specific about setting goals. So let's say, let's get a message. Let's get one for customer. Okay, so let me just quickly, before we move on to that, so you can see the message, you can see the language in the message. It's quite pointed and quite to the definitive of what you want that customer to do. So I'm just asking it for a different customer quickly, and we can compare the two different personalities. So I'm just asking it to score against that customer number. So you can see this is an experiential customer, and they like focusing on activities like travel and entertainment and other enriching experiences. Let's go and use the same after message. So you can see the message is different. They're prioritizing experiences, plan for big adventures, because that's what that customer is going to respond to. And using the different spend personalities, you're now being able to hyper-personalize those experiences for those customers. Another way that you can use the spend personality, and maybe the changing spend personality, let's quickly ask it that, how to determine
Rob, I have a question.
Sure.
While this is running. So in terms of the system can categorize customers, right, according to those personalities. And then obviously there's an intelligent messaging generating system that can actually determine what the message to the client must be, and it can be delivered to the client in any preferred channel, I presume.
So so this is custom GPT. So it is grabbing words from all over the world, and we've trained it on a certain area, so it's going to keep within those guardrails. Now, if you don't do that, if you allow it just to go and use any GPT around the world, it can go off and start hallucinating. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you give it those guardrails. You make sure that the language, if it's a company, each company has evolved over time to have a certain language and a certain framework of things that they say. And you can then train or give it those guardrails, and you can use that prompt engineering to make sure that it sticks within the, let's call it the guidelines, while still maintaining the natural language. So that's step one. Step two is, yes, it can. The journey management system, this is just a small slice. There is a journey management system which can then, at each interaction point, select which message based on the spend personality and what they've said that they want to do. They can predict, okay, they're going to want this offer at this time, or they need this bit of information, and it can go into that customer. If you've got it within a certain framework, it can go into the database of that company and get the correct balance, for instance, or what is that product, and you can then deliver that payload, and then that payload is then used by that, like you said, any communication channel to transmit it to the customer.
Thanks, Rob. My question also is around integration with communication channels, right? So omni-channel integration. So presumably, when the system has segmented your customer base and hyper-personalized them in terms of their spend personality, it must then communicate with them either through a call center or any other channel, WhatsApp, SMS, in-app messaging, and so forth. I'm presuming that it can then be integrated into all those communication channels and actually push the messaging out to the customer base to engage with that customer and deepen that digital engagement, right?
Correct. just to make sure that we're on the same point, it's that whichever that company's channels, it's not going to be outside of those company channels. So if the company has a WhatsApp channel,
Correct.
be
Yes.
that company's WhatsApp channel, be their app, will be, so it's within those
Basically, based on the options they offer their customers. So if their customer says, give me a call or send me an email or send me a WhatsApp, it will communicate with them accordingly.
So think about, we would probably have a raft or an ensemble of models, predictions. So the first one might be, what's the best channel, communication channel for Rob? And it'll score WhatsApp quite highly. It'll score contact center quite low, for instance. Okay, then there might be another model about the time, and then there's a model about the personality, and it will score all of those in milliseconds, and it'll bring all of that together, and then that then gets pushed to the communication channel that's most appropriate, and then the customer then releases it, if you know what I mean. We're not going to do anything that's outside of what the customer is wanting. We're not going to go start sending messages that the customer has no control over. It's all within the customer's framework. Okay, so then what I wanted to just bring to your attention here, what does a changing spend personality indicate? The reason I want to bring this up is that if a spend personality changes, like I was mentioning earlier, if a customer was enthusiastic and they're becoming intentional, it's probably because are they getting older? Has it happened in a very short period of time? It could be an indicator of churn. And you can then match their spend personalities to other indicators that you're monitoring and craft an intervention for that customer. Be it if they're changing their spend and they're becoming more introverted, are they saving? So you can send out a message. We've noticed that you are spending less. You can see your savings have gone up. Would you like a home loan, for instance? If you can check that their spending's gone down and their income has stayed the same, but they're not saving as much, now are they spending the money elsewhere? Have they got a different product? So then you can then intervene. You can run a campaign based on those defined spend personalities. So it's giving you so many more data points for you to engage, and so you don't have to, not that you don't have to think about it, but it's giving you a reason to act based on actual evidence, rather than maybe people are sitting in the boardroom saying, okay, I think we need to sell more credit cards. I think we should advertise on billboards. Well, how do you know that's going to work? How do you know that those people are going to respond to those things? And what we're doing now is taking actual evidence and asking those questions and getting responses and learning as we go along, so that you can engage, like I said earlier, better, more effectively with your customers. Okay, so we can come back to that. Now I just want to, in the last section of today's demo, just show you what was happening in the background, how we actually managed to make this happen. And let me just double check on my slideshow here. So what we went and did is we wanted to figure out where would that use case sit in a campaign for customers. So if you want to maintain existing customers, so you've already got existing customers, so you know what they are, their spend personalities already, and you want to sell them a product that is right for them. So that's over here. If you want to activate customers, new customers that are new to you, but they have traits that could be experiential, then you could then what kind of products are being accepted by experiential customers in this area. So you would then activate those customers with those kind of products, even though you don't know their exact spend personality. You have a model that is trained, and it looks like those customers look like the customers in your experiential group. And so you can then go through all of the different blocks, and you can even use dynamic models for new customers and new products, understanding what is happening right at the very edge as people are engaging with the product. And maybe there's a new product and they've designed it, and you're saying, this is going to do wonderful things for you, and people are engaging with it, and you can grab that information and you can then use that data to get the right products in front of the right customers at the right time. So where it's available, start off with going either to fantastic sales team at Ecosystem, but equally you can pop onto the various marketplaces and go and grab the spend personality module, and you can get it onto your computer in the time it takes to download, which is only a few minutes, if that, depending on your environment. And what it does is it comes with pre-configured algorithms, enrichments, and APIs that get you started with templates that you can then bring in your own data and update your data to understand your customers' data and your customer spend personality. So just a bit more of a overview of the architecture that you're getting. So it's a module, the spend personality module that fits in the great ecosystem architecture. You can see I was using OpenAI, my ChatGPT, and what it was doing when I was asking the spend personality of customer 590, it was using the OpenAI to give me the language, but it was going into the client pulse responder to score against that customer and say, okay, that customer 590 is, what is their probability of being an intentional spender? And it came back and it said they're quite high, and those are the numbers that you saw on the screen. So if I quickly pop out to that, I can show you over here. So I can show you that money personality. If you look at customer 52304, so let's change this to customer live demo 1434. Let's just save that, execute. And you can see that that customer number 2304 has a personality of intentional. And that is what the GPT was using to, it wasn't just making that up out of nowhere. It was going in and it was finding customer number and it was saying the experiential score is 0.35. It was using that score, which is based on a model that you find in the ecosystem platform, that you can then, like I said earlier, you get the spend personality comes with all of these pre-configured modules, pre-configured enrichments and algorithms that get you bang on within a couple of minutes, hours. You can have all of your clients, all your customers scored with their spend personalities, and you can start sending them messages based on your company's campaigns. So just what I was showing you there is the spend personality that you can download from the internet, from the marketplace. You can use the data wizards to ingest the data and run the enrichments. And maybe in another demo, we will go through that. But what we are saying is that you can download from the marketplace the software. And once you've got it up and running, you can download the wizard, which gets you to enrich all the data without you having to think through it. We've done it all for you, so that allows you to get going, like I said, very quickly. And what it actually does, what's happening in the background, is that it's taking the transactional data and the customer demographic data and giving you the right responses to those interactions that those customers are achieving. So when you send a message to the customer, an intentional customer with an intentional message, and they respond to it, that bit of information is taken back and it's calculated in the algorithm, and it's updating that algorithm in the background so that it's learning all the time once you've got it in production. And just to end off with, just to finalize what the usage that you can have with these spend personalities. If you've got existing customers that their spend personality, you can offer them a product, an existing product that's going to make them, excited to engage with you. If you've got new customers and you want to score them on pre-trained models so that you know that they look like existing customers, and then you can get them to engage and you can activate them, because there's so many banks are struggling with, they can sell credit cards and they can sell products to customers, but they're struggling to get those new customers to actually spend on their credit card and engage with those credit cards. And so if you know that this new customer would like, they seem very intentional, so maybe you send them a message to set up a budget first and get going with setting up a debit order for the first insurance product. Now that's going to get that customer to really engage with you and want to engage with the company, and that's going to keep you at the top of the mind and allow you to really get value out of the spend personality from customers. And I have nothing I would like to end off there. So just say thank you to everyone for spending your 45 minutes with me this afternoon. And I'd like to open it up now to some more questions and comments.
Good job, Rob.
Brian, questions, comments?
No, just a good job.
Anybody else? Carl? No?
Very interesting. Very interesting. So this is just one of the modules. This is for spend personalities, mostly for banks. You guys have a whole bunch of different models for different businesses.
Yes, 100%. So for, say, for instance, for telco, telecommunications companies, intelligent sales, or just for you. So that's about understanding the right product at the right time based on that company, on that, for instance, customer's interaction personality. So if you're on a channel and you're busy clicking around and you want to know everything about every single product, you've clicked in the buttons, every single button, and you've researched every feature, you're probably quite an intentional person. The product we're going to send you are going to be based on that. If you go on and you click on the first thing and it's just a, wow, this is going to make you feel so wonderful, you're more of an experiential engagement personality type, we're going to send you a message and a product that is based on that. Which are, like I said, those are very narrow modules through the product. The platform is much wider than that, but I wanted to just focus right at this moment just on the spend personality module.
Perfect. So just another question, Rob, have you got any testimonials or any live cases in banks, especially around North America side, or is it, how many banks have you worked with and what was the results on this?
So we worked with a few banks, mainly in the African area. We have a few customers that are in the pilot phase in North America. So I'm not 100% sure if I can share those testimonials with you at this moment. I'll just need to go and chat to them and get back to you.
Okay, yeah, because it's interesting. I want to obviously get into the Canadian and North American market. I've got a couple of connections in the space. And one thing about the North American market is that they like to see North American testimonials.
Understood.
It definitely helps.
Fantastic.
A totally random question. One of my good friends out here in Vancouver, he's busy building the implementation for BC Transit, the card payment systems on their buses. Okay. So he's in charge of the project. He's building so people can pay with a credit card or a prepaid transit card on the bus when they ride the bus. And I showed him this and he was like, he would love to think about how that could be implemented on what the system could do, understanding their customers on the transit system, on the buses. One thing about BC Transit is that they've got way too much money. So that's be an interesting thing.
So things like demand management or dynamic fares, or we've got to think about getting the data and understanding the data is one thing. What is the thing that's going to get them to move the needle? If like, what does that transport body want to do? Do they want to make it cheaper for everybody? Do they want to have more routes? What is that thing? Once we got that, then we can, because we're all about, once you understand the data, you've got to do something with it. The whole point of us is doing something with it so that there's a value created. Having a chart that says we've got lots of people on the bus and we predict that they're going to have more next week. That's great, but what do you want to do? Do you want to predict more people or have more buses? Predict if we lower the fares in this area, we're going to get more people. So we've got to really, that's what we want to do. And as the sales team, that's what we should be asking the questions to those people so that we can tailor what they actually get out of the platform rather than just saying, here's a platform, give us your data, because that just slows things down a bit.
Yeah, it's about what the benefits are. That's what we want to sell to them. But
Exactly.
Pretty much the system can do anything with the data in an intelligent way if you set it up like that.
100% correct. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Sorry.
Give you no, carry on.
On the spend personality.
Yeah.
Basically what happens is, just in layman's terms, so I understand it nicely, is you connect all of your data, the module runs on your own system, it's connected to your own data, the data doesn't go out into the cloud or the internet or anything, it's just there. You connect it simple through APIs on your own data systems, regardless of what systems you are using. You just connect it to your database. It constantly looks,
We generally import it into our database for the high-speed stuff that we need to do. We've got a Mongo database, which we find just works a lot better with all the other algorithms and all the other things that we need to get the work done. So we did. So it's more about we would ingest the data.
Okay. Right,
But
so
it doesn't necessarily have to be like it. But you've got to get the data in so you can run the models on that data. So we generally prefer to have portions of the data, but it's not on our system, it's still on your system in your environment.
So in other words, what happens is the client, say Van City Credit Union, decides to give it a go. What we need to do is we install this on their system. In their environment, we set up the connections for the data to import the correct data. It depends on what data they have and how they can export it. It gets imported to the system and it ingests this data. We obviously have to set up a regular update, because if we want to try and keep the data as live as possible, there would be a system that automatically once a day or whatever brings the data in.
Moment, but I'm sure there's lots of other products that we can use.
Yeah, so that would bring the data in. The AI, the system understands the data and does, Moritz touched on it earlier on, you can then connect the system back to your own messaging system on your own environment. And when you say the system communicates, obviously there's still a human in the loop that has to be intentional, that says, hey, we've got this new product, bring out all the clients that's likely to love this product, and let's just communicate with them about this product.
Yeah, so generally the best way is if you've logged on to your app, be it the transit app or your banking app, you've logged on, so there's a payload that says it's Rob, and it gives you a couple of other things, and it knows, okay, the routing system for that API says it's Rob, okay, cool, it must go to the ecosystem endpoint, and it must score Rob because that's the rules that they've set up. It goes there, it takes Rob, okay, cool, let's find out what it says in his balance, let's score this model, depending on where he clicked on the app. If you clicked on balance inquiry, if you clicked on route planning, it will say, okay, take that payload and go to this specific API endpoint. It'll do the work. It'll score against the model. It'll get the right data, and it'll have a payload that then gets pushed back to that thing that then decides, okay, I've got all this information in the payload, but I only need that. I only need to change the color, and this is the offer, and this is what I need. And that's what gets pushed back to the.
Okay, sorry, I need to get it into layman's terms. So in other words, that's one of the that's actually brilliant. So in other words, when I log into my banking app like I did this morning, I don't need to see mortgage because I'm not affording a house in Vancouver. So I don't need to see an ad for mortgage there. It's just not relevant to me. Yeah. You should rather send me something that's relevant to me, and that's what the system does. So in your app, it immediately gives you a much more relevant advertising.
100%.
And then as well,
that's our ideal situation. So what has happened with the previous customer or existing customer, we gave them, these are the top things that for this customer, you should have these 3 things at the top of the page. And it made a big difference to those 3 things. And it was different for each person. Like you said, you're not going to have mortgages, you're going to have credit card and savings products or whatever it is. Maybe another person has mortgages. For those ones those 3 that were being promoted, they were seeing a big uplift. The ones that weren't being promoted were seeing just flat. And so all those business units said, no, we can't have this. And so they put everybody back onto the front page, and everybody got a.
And then everybody just went flat. Yeah. I was telling Moritz yesterday, I just signed up for TELUS Fiber over here. And I literally get an email a day from them with the weirdest bunch of crap that they're trying to sell me, which has absolutely no relevance to me. So much so that I've now spammed them. I put them into my spam filters. Yeah. And that's also, I think, one of the selling points is like, hey, don't over communicate with your customer. Communicate with him on stuff that he's interested in. And that way seem intentional, because actually think like me, act like me.
You're 100% correct. So think about, so you would have a campaign, an outgoing campaign to get people to come in. Because when you're coming in, then you as Carl have made the intention to log on to your app. So your brain's focused on doing something. So that's what you want to do. You don't want to just send it out at 3 o'clock in the morning to everybody. Create a campaign, says this is the interesting stuff. But when you're coming in, give him exactly what he wants right and when he wants it, so that it make it frictionless, so that he can interact. And you will then keep going back to that place, because your life's better because the app or that bank is communicating with you, engaging with you in a way that you want to be.
Exactly. Love it. Another question, is there external data that can be pulled in to the system?
We don't. So the way that we would work is you get the software and it's generally empty. it doesn't have any data in it. It's got the frameworks and all that kind of stuff. You pull your data. So if you've got customer data and you've got social media data, but it's the bank's social media data, for us, that's just the data feed. It means it's curated by the bank. For us, we don't bring anybody else's data in. But we've got what the difference is that the frameworks for the spend personality, the frameworks for the fraud personality, the intention personality, all of those things, those frameworks are embedded in the platform that you don't have to do that work. Like I was saying to you, if you download that from the spend personality from the Azure Marketplace, it's already got the models with the right hyperparameters. It's got the enrichments ready to go. It's got all of those things waiting, and you just click the button and it'll go and do that. Whereas now, if you go to the cloud providers, you've got to figure out what enrichments do I have to, first of all, design, run them, get them to work, make sure that they're actually doing what they say they're doing, and then you've got to train a model. So we give you so much, we give you an advantage, such a time advantage, and such a thinking advantage, so that you can get going and start engaging with your customers without having to do all of this legwork that's taking companies months and months to do.
All right. Yeah, the reason I'm asking is I'm thinking about if I go and see a client and I speak to them and can I tell them like, hey, you have your own data, but if you want to reach out and find some new clients as well, there are places that you can purchase data that you can also plug in to make additional, because there are many data sources for sale, right?
Yeah, so you get that data source. So let's say you want to get more credit card customers. So these are all the customers that look like I said, that you can buy the data from. These customers look like I was saying to you earlier, they look like you'd get some, maybe you start with demographic data, maybe one other point. These look like intentional and these look like experiential. And then your campaign would go to those experiential, you would send a certain message to them and you would send a different message to the intentional. Now already you're ahead of your competition because you're personalizing that. Then you get the responses back. Okay, these people, the people that are in Calgary or in Edmonton, they respond like this. All right, cool. I've already got data about them, and then the system just gets better and better and better and better.
All right.
And eventually, then instead of you phoning the person and saying, "Okay, do you want to buy a credit card?" You just keep sending the messages. And the intentional people, you might send them less messages, and the experiential people, you spend them maybe more messages. And then maybe one day, depending on how you set it, you could send them an experiential message to an intentional person and see if they engage. And you just keep doing that, and those bits of data just flow into the system, and we just keep training and learning and training and learning.
And then, of course, I guess the other side of it is that you can look at your customer base and see who's your most loyal customers, who spends the most money with you. Is it experiential people? And so when you target other marketing campaigns, blanket campaigns out on TV or whatever, you can then start targeting your campaigns directly to your ideal customer. So in other words, you don't put a blanket stupid campaign out there to find people that are not going to pay their credit cards. You want to
100% correct, because now you've got an extra data point that'll just make your campaign just so much more effective.
Yeah, so much more effective in finding the right customer, because you're now not just blanketly advertising a new product, you're advertising a product to the ideal customer. I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thanks, Rob.
At the right time as well, when they want it.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about, look, there's different parts of marketing and whatever. I understand how it works in the app and how you can find people there. But an additional benefit is like Van City Credit Union takes out TV ads where they advertise Van City. But by knowing what their ideal customer is, they can actually promote them to that customer, to the ideal customer. So they can target their blanket campaigns.
Banks will have a personality. You identify with a brand and it has a personality. That brand has a personality. Maybe that brand has intentional people go into it. So you're not going to then try and, like you said, get experiential people to come and join your bank. You're going to just rather send messages that are about what your best customer you're going to target it exactly like that. So you understand. So yeah, 100% correct.
Excellent.